Hi, everybody. Happy True Crime Wednesday. I hope you all are doing well and having a great summer. You know what? I have to tell you, I have had an amazing summer already, and it's not quite over yet. It's been really exciting. We've had some house guests. We had an 80th birthday party for my husband, and so we had his sister and her daughter here for a few days. And then my friend Jane from Boise, who I met thanks to the true crime community, came for a few days and we had a blast. We got our kayaks out and went out on the high lakes and kayaked at Hosmer Lake and just spent some great time together. So we've got more family coming in a couple of weeks. And of course, CrimeCon's coming up. So I'm excited about that as well. I'm working on a new project, working on a book proposal, and so hopefully in the next few weeks I'll have more information about that. But for now, I'm sort of keeping it under my hat. So, but we have a lot to talk about. It's amazing how much happens in 2 weeks, but we do have quite a bit to talk about. We have Stefan Sterns to talk about because of his surprise entry of a guilty plea. We have Brian Kohberger's sentencing with the family of the victims giving their victim impact statements. We have Lori Vallow's sentencing, which we'll talk about. And then we have, let me see, I have pages of notes. Brooks Houk. There's some developments there. Of course, we need to talk about Massachusetts and about the fallout from Karen Reed continues with lots of problems with other cases where attorneys are now complaining about wanting information about Michael Proctor and about the state police. We have Tiffany Adams, that's the murder granny. Corey Richens. Of course, we have James Craig's trial that happened in the last couple weeks. We have Donna Adelson's trial, which is coming up in the next couple weeks. So lots to chat about. And let me know in the chat if there are cases that you would like me to talk about that I haven't gotten to, because I can't keep up with all of them. But I did want to start with Stefan Sterns. For those of you who are not familiar with that case, 13-year-old Madeline Soto was murdered. Stefan Sterns was her mother's on and off again boyfriend who had lived with them for quite some time. She disappeared. He claimed he dropped her off at school, and when her mother Jennifer went to get her, she wasn't there, hadn't been in school all day, and so then it turned out that surveillance video showed him coming in and out of the apartment complex, very likely with Maddie already deceased in the passenger seat. He was also charged with hundreds of SA charges because it was alleged, well, no, I can say not alleged anymore because he admitted to it. He was committing SA with Maddie since she was about 8 years old. And there were thousands of pictures and thousands of videos of child SA material, primarily of Maddie, on his telephone, on his devices. So he was arrested and he was set to go to trial. The first trial was going to be on the child SA charges. And just prior to the beginning of jury selection, he surprisingly took a plea deal. The murder charge had been charged as a death penalty case, and as it is in a lot of states, um, SA of a victim is a predicate offense, which can it is an underlying offense for the purpose of seeking the death penalty. So she kept they kept trying to keep all that essay material out, claiming that the police got it without a warrant because Stearns gave them permission, but then they claimed that he really didn't give them permission to everything that was on his phone. It was only to the essay material. It was only to the Google Calendar, and it wasn't to any of the photographs, text messages, videos, all of those things. So they filed a motion to suppress, and the judge denied the motion and said that material was going to come in. So clearly, if that material wasn't going to be suppressed, um, clearly he was going to get convicted, because there were pictures and videos of him with Maddie. So very, very troubling and incriminating information on his devices. So at the last minute, he entered a plea. It was interesting because in Florida, unlike what we saw in Kohberger, which we're going to talk about next, there was no time lag. He stipulated to a sentence, and the sentence was life without parole. And so once he agreed to that sentence, they said, "That's it. We're going to sentence you today." Now they did notify victims and had them there prepared to give their victim impact statements. So clearly they knew that the plea was happening. But the public didn't really know until a day or so before, when it appeared on the docket that they were having a change of plea hearing. Then it wasn't clear for a while whether he was pleading just to the SA case or whether he was pleading guilty to both that and the murder. As it turned out, he was pleading to both. So they, but Florida does not play around, because those SA charges with a victim under 12, which would have been for several years of Maddie's life. She had just turned 13, so any of the images that were created before, while she was still under 12, fell under that, and that for a victim under 12 carries the possibility of the death penalty or life without parole. So I think that Stefan Sterns sort of saw the handwriting on the wall and realized that he had a lot of there was a lot of risk in going to trial. So he pled guilty to all of the SA charges, but he pled no contest to the murder charges. So why would he do that? A no contest plea says, I don't want to admit guilt, but I'm accepting guilt. And I believe that if the state were to put on their evidence, there would be sufficient evidence to convict me. Now, I know that sounds sort of like splitting hairs, and in some ways it is. But I think the reason why he chose to do that is because a no contest plea cannot be used as an admission of guilt in a civil case. And I think that he was concerned that there was going to be a civil case. Now, a wrongful death case. Who knows? I mean, why would there be? Because he doesn't have anything. I mean, you can't get damages out of somebody who has nothing. So, I don't necessarily see that there was a big possibility that there was going to be a civil suit, but I think that may be why he decided, to plead no contest um, rather than plead guilty to the murder. Interestingly, there were quite a few family members, of Maddie's family members that were there, but Madeline Soto's mother, Jen Soto, was very conspicuous with her absence, by her absence. So that's very troubling. A lot of people have felt from the beginning that Madeline Soto or that Jennifer Soto bore some responsibility for allowing her daughter to be alone with this guy. And in fact, on the night that Madeline died, um, Jen Soto came home from work. She just started a new job. It was in the evenings, and she said, "I'm tired and I need my sleep." So she sent Madeline upstairs to an upstairs bedroom to sleep in the same bed with Stefan Sterns. Um, that's sort of pretty suspicious. And at a minimum, negligent parenting, uh, if not worse. So, um, so he has been found guilty and sentenced to both the essay and the murder, and he will be spending the rest of his life without the possibility of parole in prison in Florida. So the other case that has gotten that was surprising was Brian Kohberger when he entered a guilty plea. And we talked at length about that last week. I'm not going to go into it too deeply because, like I say, we had some long conversations about it. But we did hear the families give their victim impact statements. And they were very moving and they were very emotional. Um, Kaylee Gonzalez's sister, um, Olivia, gave quite a moving and quite an interesting victim impact. She essentially called Brian Kohberger out. She said he was a loser. She said he was a failure. And she really kind of went after him in that regard, which I thought was very interesting because um, I think it was something that she did some study on to try and figure out how to get to somebody who, at a minimum, has some narcissistic tendencies and potentially is a sociopath. So that was really interesting. Her her victim impact statement. Whoops. Um, sorry about that. Hit my mouse. Her victim impact statement really went quite viral. So I'm sure you all have seen it. She was very brave, no tears, very brave, and very straightforward. So the same cannot be said for Lori Vallow. Y'all know that she was found guilty in both cases in the attempted um, murder of Brandon Boudreaux, the conspiracy to commit the murder of Brandon Boudreaux, and also the murder of Charles Vallow. So she had asked to put off the sentencing in Charles' case until after uh, the Brandon Boudreaux case was over. And Colby was the first one. Colby is Lori Vallow's son, her only surviving son. He's the oldest. Um, and he introduced himself by saying he was the son of Charles Vallow. and he wanted to tell the court how much he'd lost. He said, "My life would never be the same. My sister would be caught in the middle. Um, uh, she had to experience things no child should ever have to bear." And but it was very pointed that he didn't say Lori Vallow is my mother. He said Charles Vallow is my dad. I'm the son of Charles Vallow. And, we've heard from Colby before that Charles Vallow was really the only dad that he had ever known. Um, Colby said that Lori Vallow told him Charles Vallow had been unfaithful for years, and it made him mad, and he chose not to speak to Charles, and he never really got the chance to say goodbye. And Colby regrets that because he said he now knows that Lori Vallow was the one that was lying. And um, so he had questions. He's a very really devout Christian, and so he had questions like, when did Jesus tell us that it was okay to cause this kind of pain? Lori Vallow herself is the family tragedy. Lori Vallow, through all of this, has said, all of these things were family tragedies, but they weren't crimes. And so he said, Lori Vallow is the the is the family tragedy. Larry Woodcock was next. He was unable to be there in person to look her in the eye. I think he's got some health issues, but said, "You murdered Charles, the best thing that ever happened to you. I'll never speak your name again. Did you enjoy it when he died? Did you dance?" Um, He said, which is something I had never heard before, that Lori Vallow tried to kill him as he was going home from Hawaii, but he didn't go further into it, so I don't know what that was all about. Charles' sister Susan and his brother Jerry both spoke, said, "Your greed has caused so much pain." Very interesting. JJ's father, Todd Trahan, got furlough from prison to come and give a victim impact statement. He is JJ's father. He is Kay's son. And then Kay wrapped it up by saying, "I trusted you. I deal with the regret of and the torment of that every day. I trusted you." Um, it was a little interesting because after that, then of course, Lori gave her statement, which was much more of the same. She complained a lot about the fact that she didn't think she got a fair trial, that she wasn't allowed to put in her evidence. Now, if you'll recall, there were several instances where the judge cautioned her over and over again, if you want that evidence in, you may bring it in, but understand that it is going to open the door, and the jury is going to hear about all of the charges and the convictions out of Idaho. So that was particularly came up in Brandon Boudreau's case, where the judge said, if you go there, you open the door and you will be allowing the jury to hear about the fact that you have been convicted and found responsible for the deaths of 4 people. So Lori took most of her time to really sass the judge. I wouldn't say she was disrespectful, but she definitely pushed back, and she definitely complained that she didn't feel like her trial was fair. He sentenced her to life with the possibility of parole in both cases, because that was the maximum sentence that could be imposed for conspiracy to commit murder. Unlike Idaho, in Idaho, conspiracy to commit murder carries the possibility for the death penalty or life without parole. That's not the case in Arizona. In Arizona, the maximum penalty is life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. So the judge imposed both of those sentences. And as Lori was being led away, Tammy's sister yelled, "Lori, rot in prison." And the bailiff, then you can hear the bailiff in the background saying, "We can't do that in here." And Lori walked by and winked at her and smiled and winked at her. It was pretty awful. They interviewed a lot of the family members afterwards outside in front of the courthouse. I thought one of the funniest, one of the most amusing was Jerry Vallow, who's kind of a character. I've talked to him before. And they were asking Kay questions and all those things. And uh, he said, "Well, I'm going to go get something to eat." So when I was practicing, I met a lawyer who is a very experienced criminal lawyer, and he he used to say, when my clients are found guilty and they ask me, "Wendell, what happens next?" I say, "You're going to prison and I'm going to lunch." And so that's sort of what Jerry was saying. Lori's going to prison and we're all going to lunch. Um, so Lori Vallow now, she filed motions for new trials. The judge has denied everything so far, and I think she will very likely be, if she isn't already, she will be on her way back to Idaho very soon. I think she wants to be back there because prison is more comfortable than jail. And she's been there quite a while, and I'm sure that Maricopa County isn't the most fun place to be. So the next case I wanted to, believe it was Aunt Vicky. Oh, Tammy's aunt that called out to Lori. You may be right on that. Yeah, I think you were right. I think it was Vicky Hoban. Hoban is her name. So the next case I want to talk about is Brooks Houk. So Brooks Houk was tried along with two co-defendants for the death of Crystal Rogers. Crystal Rogers' body's never been found, but they were able to get a conviction on all three, even without Crystal's body. What's been going on recently is he was found guilty and he was sentenced to life. And but he has been having lots of jail calls with his family. Brooks Houk was quite well to do by country standards. He owned quite a few pieces of property in real estate, rental and investment property. He and Crystal Rogers had one son together. He was pretty young when Crystal disappeared and is presumed to be dead. And so there were several telephone calls to family members discussing how to liquidate his assets because Crystal Rogers' family has filed a wrongful death civil case. And he has been trying to liquidate assets and to funnel them into a trust for their son, and avoid the payout to the family, to avoid the civil suit. But recently, the attorneys in the civil suit filed a motion with the court, and a judge has ordered his assets frozen now. So a week or so ago, we were hearing several recorded phone messages where he's talking about liquidating assets and telling his mom who to call and all those things. Now, I'm here to tell you that the continuing saga of Massachusetts is just never going to end. Even though Karen Reed has been acquitted and is trying to get her life back on track, there's still so much going on having to do with Karen Reed, with Massachusetts in general, and in particular that Canton suburban area and that county. So, um, there have been a there are 9 cases, including the Brian Walsh case, where the defense attorneys have, after Karen Reed's case was over, the feds told the state, you have 30 days to destroy all of the federal records that you got in the process of Karen's case. So they were coming up on that deadline, and the defense lawyers all filed motions to stay that order until they could get back into court, federal court on it. The information came from the feds during their federal investigation in the Karen Reed case. And as a part of that federal investigation, they're the ones who got Michael Proctor's text messages private on his private phone, and got all those text messages that were so incriminating. So there are many cases, 9 to be exact, where the defense attorneys want those to be able to impeach Michael Proctor about his biases. And so they have been continuing to litigate this. Now, in particular, there is a case, the case of Miles King. It's a if I understand it right, it's kind of a drive-by shooting case, which is a little bit unusual. But Adam Lally, who was the original prosecutor in the Reed case, was also has also been the prosecutor in this Miles King case. And Miles King has been was incarcerated for 3 years and 10 months, was getting ready to go to trial. And the defense said, how can we go to trial? We don't even have the original search warrants. We don't have the probable cause affidavits. We don't have any of that information. And we've been asking for it for almost 4 years. So Adam Lally was subpoenaed to come in and testify. And they did everything in their power to quash those subpoenas, but the judge said, nope, you need to come in and testify. So he was questioned at length. There were 6 search warrants that still had not been turned over nearly 4 years later. They were the original search warrants in the case, and they've had them since the very beginning of the case 4 years ago. So there's a lot of discovery. I will say, for any of you who saw that and have seen other law tubers comment on it, Adam Lally was disgraceful. I mean, it was terrible. He could have cared less that this guy was sitting in jail for 4 years. And he had absolutely no professional respect for himself, absolutely no initiative in any way. I mean, he could have cared less whether those things ever got turned over. One of the lawyers was saying that on the day they had that hearing, the prosecutor walked into the hearing and handed her a new stack of discovery in the Miles King case. And it's been going on for 4 years. So that's outrageous. It was pretty clear, because this judge was not Judge Canoni, that the judge had some serious concerns. They have filed a motion for a dismissal with prejudice. I don't know that they're going to get it, but the judge did continue the hearing beyond, I think it's reset for August 12th, and that was to give the prosecution and the defense time to put together some lists of discovery. But here's the thing about discovery. The judge kept saying, well, make me a list of all the things you don't have. How can you know what you don't know? And how can you know? For example, the judge said, well, you have to prove that this is exculpatory or reasonably designed to lead to reasonably in favor of the defendant. Well, that's hard to know, because, for example, impeachment evidence is reasonably favorable to the defense. So you have a police officer who files a police report, and then 4 years later, you get a supplemental police report, and it's completely different. Now you have the ability, something that in the initial discovery wasn't really uh, positive for the defense, now is, because of the second police report. So it was it's very troubling. The other thing that is going on in Massachusetts and making things even worse is something I've talked about at length on this channel, because I was a public defender, and that's the lack of funding for public defense. So it is happening just about every state in the country. Some are doing a better job than others, but clearly Massachusetts is not. So this is the state that paid millions to prosecute Karen Read. They paid almost $1 million to Hank Brennan to prosecute the case, because nobody in the Commonwealth's office would prosecute the case. So they paid Hank Brennan nearly $1 million to prosecute Karen Read. In the meantime, the public defenders are refusing to take new cases because of the lack of pay, and the failure of the state to give public defenders an increase. So the state is having to dismiss cases because they can't get public defenders, and they're having to let out of jail dangerous people because they can't hold them in jail without public defenders. So that is compounding the problem in Massachusetts. But the problem goes all the way. I mean, the problem really is the state police and this sort of good old boy lack of accountability that seems to go on forever in Massachusetts. It's frightening. So the next case I wanted to talk about is the murder granny. That's Tiffany Adams. So Tiffany Adams and 4 co-defendants murdered her grandchildren's mother, Veronica Butler, and Veronica Butler's the wife of the pastor where Veronica Butler attended church, who was serving as a court-appointed supervisor for a child custody exchange. So Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly drove out to this very remote location to exchange the children that belonged to Veronica Butler and to Tiffany Adams' son. They were their children. Tiffany Adams had custody of the children, but Veronica Butler was going to be going to a hearing in a week or two, and it was very likely that she was at a minimum going to get unsupervised time and might have even gotten the court to order the children returned to her because she was doing so well. So Tiffany Adams, her longtime boyfriend, and another couple and another man, so 5 people altogether, met these folks out at this crossroads and murdered them. There have been some continued delays in the trial. The court recently allowed consumptive testing on some DNA testing samples, and 2 of the co-defendants have flipped on the rest of them. So they have already testified against Tiffany Adams and the other co-defendants in a preliminary hearing. Now, here's what's weird. They are set for their official arraignment in November. So I don't really understand how it works in Oklahoma, I think. Because here it is, they're going to be arraigned, but some of them have already had a preliminary hearing. So I'm a little confused as to how it works, but it appears that there will be a June 2026 trial at the earliest for them. So 2 of them have already pled guilty and agreed to testify against the other 3. And we have more about Corey Richens. So Corey Richens has continued to, her attorneys, ever since Sky Lazaro had to withdraw, her attorneys have been filing motion after motion, trying to get things suppressed. And, they're doing their jobs. They're doing what they need to do. But the defense attorney recently subpoenaed the family's civil lawyer who is acting as their spokesperson and their victim advocate. And that person, the defense attorney wanted all communications with the family because they are convinced that this spokesperson has been communicating with Eric Richens' family. So the judge has not made a determination about that. There is going to be continued hearings. They've also filed motions to suppress the walk the dog letter, the letter which supposedly she wrote to try and get her brother to give false testimony. And the state has recently added several new charges. And the way I understood it from the beginning of the hearing was some of these charges were sort of a consolidation. So some were dismissed, some were added, some were amended. But the additional charges were for mortgage fraud and forgery. So, and the judge set a schedule for pretrial motions, but it's in January of 2026. Her trial is not set to start until February of 2026, if it even starts then. So, and of course, we had the trial of James Craig. With the resolution of Kohberger, we were surprised, and Stefan Sterns, we suddenly didn't have too many of these high-profile cases scheduled. But we did have James Craig. James Craig was the Colorado dentist who poisoned his wife. And there were some really maybe a little shocking facts that came out at trial. James Craig was spending a lot of time on websites that matched well-to-do men up with sugar babies, and he was communicating with several of them. He also, at a dental conference, met another dentist, an endodontist, who he started a relationship with, and there were thousands of he was definitely having an emotional affair with her, and there were thousands of text messages between the two of them. Um, all the time, he was telling his wife that he wanted things to get better and things were going to be okay. He used cyanide, which he ordered from a company because of his dental practice. He was able to order chemicals that the average person wouldn't be able to order. Um, she was given arsenic and cyanide both. He also ordered oleander, which is a plant that can be poisonous, but there wasn't any evidence that he ever gave her that. One of the really awful things was he started trying to get his children to help him out, to help um, suborn perjury, basically. So he had 2 or 3 people in prison that he was using to get to other, uh, he was using to get to witnesses. And so, he actually reached out to his minor child, his daughter, and told her that he wanted her to go on the dark web and get AI to create a video of her now deceased mother that would prove that she had unalived herself and that she had been trying to do that for some time. And it was supposed to be sort of a goodbye video that she was supposed to have created. And she actually came to court and testified against her dad. It's so sad when parents put kids in those kind of situations. It really is. So he also uh, tried to get an inmate to get in touch with somebody on the outside to try and get a couple of people killed, a couple of witnesses, including the investigating detective on the case. So it was interesting when she came in and testified that she was sort of looking him in the eye, and he'd tried to find somebody to murder her. So ultimately, the jury was not convinced of any of his odd stories. And so he was convicted, and I believe he's been sentenced, but I'm not sure because I didn't watch it that closely. And then we have Mama Gotti, Donna Adelson, and she is still in Tallahassee and she is still getting ready for trial. Now, a couple of days ago, Tim Jansen, who is a well known attorney in Florida, was on Surviving the Survivor with Joel and said that um, that Donna Adelson was, oh, thank you, Carol. He got life in prison. Okay. So Tim Jansen told Joel and the panel on STS a couple days ago that Donna Adelson turned down a time served deal that would have required her to turn on Wendy. Now, there's a lot of other stuff out there about Donna, about her um, trying to have an inmate done away with, talking about having her own son, Rob, done away with because he said things negative about her. And so it was really interesting. Both the prosecution and the defense have denied that there were ever plea negotiations, but they couched it in kind of uh, careful language. So it will be interesting to see what may come out after her trial. But I would be very surprised. Tim Jansen's a pretty straight up guy. So, and he said he had it on very good authority that she had been offered a deal. The deal would be that she could get out with time served, but she had to throw Wendy under the bus and she declined it. I'll tell you what that tells me. If in fact the state did make that offer, then it means that they don't have the goods on Wendy. It means that they don't have a strong case against Wendy and that they are attempting to strengthen their case by getting one of the family members or the co-conspirators to flip. I think it's important to know that if Donna were to take a deal like that, it was also going to implicate Charlie and Harvey because admitting that there was a conspiracy to murder Dan Markel, which is what she would have to do, would eh, all along, everyone has said there was no conspiracy. But if she were to come to go on the record and say, yes, we all conspired in Dan Markel's murder, that is going to not only it's going to have a ripple effect. Not only would it impact Wendy because mom turned on her and gave her up, but it would also impact Charlie because even though he's already been convicted, he's got a bunch of appeals going on right now, and his appeals are based on they didn't believe me when I said that there was this weird like double extortion thing happening. So I I think that it's probably as likely that she turned it down so that she wouldn't hurt Charlie as it is that she wouldn't hurt Wendy. Now, we know that Wendy has really distanced herself from the entire family since Charlie got arrested. Prior to that, things seemed okay. But once Charlie got arrested, and then when Donna got arrested, Wendy has made herself really scarce. So she was living in Austin, Texas, but recently there's been a lot of chatter about the fact that she may have left Austin and may have gone to Colorado. Now, she's still the mother of the two boys. And so, if Donna were to take a deal, it would mean that she would be um, throwing the mother of the two boys under the bus and sending her to prison. And that I think that even if she doesn't have any love lost for Wendy, she wouldn't be doing that to Charlie and Harvey and her grandsons. So, um, like I say, the DA and the defense uh, attorneys have all denied that there was a negotiation, but they've they've done it in a kind of like careful language. So that's the last of the cases that I wanted to give a rundown on. So while Jen is looking for your questions and your comments, I thought I would just sort of remind everybody, don't forget, CrimeCon this year is in Denver, and it is going to be bigger than ever. They just came out. I haven't even looked at it yet. I saw the email. They've just come out with the lineup of some of the people who are going to be there. My book has been nominated for a Clue Award along with 4 other books. They nominate 5 in each category. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. That would be way cool. But also wanted to remind everybody about some of the stuff that's coming up. And I am looking up the email right now so I can uh, so I can see. Um, I like I say, I just got the email with the lineup of all of the recent people. So I'm going to be rude and look over here at my other screen so that I can pull up that email and tell you guys a little bit about what is coming up, because they've got some pretty interesting, there it is. Your CrimeCon schedule is here. Let's see the schedule. And I will share my screen with you. And we'll look at it together. Don't forget that CrimeCon uses volunteers. So if you are interested in going and concerned about the cost, who wouldn't be? It is possible that you can volunteer and be able to get a discounted or free ticket. So it kicks off on Friday afternoon, and there is visit the Expo Hall and Creator Row. Now, the first time I went to CrimeCon when it was in Las Vegas, Creator Row was probably 20 creators plus Dateline and Court TV. And last year, when I went and had a booth because we were doing pre-sales for the book, I was my booth number was 207, and I wasn't the last booth. So there were a lot of, I mean, just an incredible amount of creators of all kinds, podcasters, books, movies, you name it, there were creators there. So it was really interesting. So that's the Expo Hall and Creator Row. Then we have Luigi Mangione, Manifesto, Manhunt, and Moral Divide with Jesse Weber and Anjanette Levy. Active Shooter Response, What Would You Do? With Bob Notta, not to be confused with Bob Motta. Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, Ice Cold Case, Affirmative Murder, live podcast taping, a VIP only fingerprinting experience. No thanks. I've already had my fingerprints taken more than once. So when you join the military, they fingerprint you. And once again, when you are admitted to a bar exam, they take your fingerprints. So I've had them done several times. Bone Valley, Leo Schofield's Road to Exoneration. That will be very interesting. Beyond the Headlines, the unspoken crisis of missing, murdered, and indigenous relatives. It really is an epidemic of indigenous, particularly women, who go missing and who are never found. When Devotion Turns Deadly, Killer Relationships. So there is a lot of stuff. There's a live podcast taping with Cheryl McCollum. And just many, many other really exciting things. Crime Fighting Canines, a live canine demonstration with the Aurora Police Department. Daybell Case, Inside the Investigation, and the Family Torn Apart. That's Nate Eaton, Colby Ryan, and Ray Hermosillo. So, I mean, there are so many. I mean, that's just Friday. There's so many different seminars and presentations. And here's Mike King, groomed by their God inside the FLDS and the machinery of cult recruitment. More on John Benet Ramsey, the Delphi case, Susan Hendricks, Becky Patty, who is the grandmother of Libby, Liberty German, Tara German, Josh Lank, and Anna Williams. So Anna Williams is Abby's mother. So there's Delphi family members and lots and lots and lots of other really exciting things. Families Fight for Justice, a conversation with John and Callahan Walsh. John Walsh is from what is it called? Cold cases? I can't even remember now. John Walsh, been around a long time. So there are so many different opportunities for seminars. Here's Marcia Clark from the OJ trial by ambush with Marcia Clark. So, I mean, there are a tremendous number of different presentations and seminars and things. So I hope that I will see you there because America's Most Wanted. Thanks, Tiff. So yeah, I hope that I will see as many of you as possible there because it's always a lot of fun. And there's always really interesting people to meet. All of your favorite creators are going to be there. Bob and Ali Mata, all your LawTube creators. Gigi will be there, of course. Joel from STS, you name it. I heard recently that Kathy from Rumor and Innuendo, Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo is going to be there. So a lot of people, a lot of creators going for the first time. So it should be way fun. It is the weekend of September 4th, 5th, and 6th. The 4th, I believe, is Thursday. So it is the 5th, 6th, the 6th and 7th are Saturday and Sunday. So Friday the 5th, 6th, Saturday the 6th, and Sunday the 7th. So hope you'll try and join us because it's a lot of fun. So what kind of questions do we have tonight? Hi, Eat the Food, Tina. The judges in the Daybell and Kohberger sentencings imposed fines in addition to prison. How does that work, and can the victims' families benefit? So this is a good question. For the most part, if you have someone who is sentenced to life in prison, it's highly unlikely that they're going to have money that where they would be able to pay off those fines. But every crime has a monetary punishment of fines and fees that can be imposed in addition to jail time or prison time. Those fines and fees usually go back to the court, and they are used for court programs. It varies from state to state as to what they're used for. But there also is a victim relief fund, and that definitely some of those fees go to benefit that victims fund, go to help replenish that. What we do know is that if a person is in prison and they're getting canteen, that a certain percentage of the money that gets put on their books goes toward their victims. It's not a lot. I mean, most states limit the amount of money you can have on your books at any one time to somewhere around $60. And even if the families are getting 25% of that, it's not a lot. So So there's that. But there's other things. For example, Brian Kohberger is is a fairly young guy, and he has family. And at some point, he very likely will outlive his parents and his family members. And if he does, will he inherit if he receives an inheritance from family members? That could be attached for the purpose of paying some of the fines. So is it likely that, that and the victims are ever going to see any money from either one of them? Absolutely not. But it's very typical for the judge to impose fines and fees, because on the outside chance that that person comes into some sort of money, then the victims would have the right to be first in line for it. So good question. Um, it's uh, it's very unlikely. And if you recall, Chad Daybell signed his house over to his attorney in lieu of attorney fees. So John Pryor then, after Chad's trial was over, sold the house. So it was sold to someone within the Eastern Idaho community, and their hope is to use it sort of as a park or some sort of healing garden or something that would benefit the community. So I think they're still working on what those plans are going to be. Hi, Mac. Do you think the leak in the Idaho 4 case uh, will be revealed, or was it all the judge's anger and investigation just theater? You know, I don't think so. I think this judge was very unhappy with the fact that information leaked that there was a gag order against sharing. And I think that the judge believes that it came from the prosecution. So I don't know how quick Judge Hippler is going to be to say, well, it's all over and no harm, no foul. I don't know that he's going to be amenable to that. He was asking for a special prosecutor to be appointed to investigate. I don't think he's going to back down from that just because the case is over. So, um, and I think I'll say I think Judge Hippler believes that the leak came from somebody either in law enforcement or in the prosecutor's office. It's either an investigator or somebody in law enforcement. So I will say it is not unusual for there to be leaks. Um, it's what is often the case is we don't see them, because what happens is that the person who does the leaks is interested in making money, and they make the most money off posting the very salacious stuff on the dark web. So oftentimes, within a day or two of a murder, somebody will leak the crime scene photos, even though um, there's a gag order or an embargo, or the sheriff is saying we're not releasing that information because it would compromise the investigation. And yet, lo and behold, if you are a denizen of the dark web, you can find them, and it happens really quickly. And it's because somebody's got a lot of money and is willing to pay whoever it is that's leaking them. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. That's one of the reasons why it was hard to um, hard to understand the level of outrage in the Delphi case. Now, I completely understand that there was a gag order that that a person really committed a crime in taking photographs of crime scene photos and then sharing them. But I am pretty sure that even before that, um, those pictures were out on the dark web. It's just a reality of the internet. So, um, what other questions do we have? Mm, thank you for asking, Teresa. Um, we will have one more. Um, where did Golly, I can't even read my own darn calendar here, so hang in here with me. Um, we will have one more on the 20th of August, and then we will be back to a regular schedule after the 1st. Um, I am leaving for oh, no, I will do the first one in September on the 3rd. And that will be just the day before I leave for CrimeCon. So, and I will be back in time. So we will be back on an every Wednesday schedule starting in September. So we have one more on August 20th. And then after that, we'll be back on the 3rd of September. And then we'll be back every week. So I hopefully by that time will have my book proposal finished and on its way out in my agent's capable hands. So I won't be doing quite so much work on that because I'm writing sample chapters right now. So, and we should be back to a usual schedule. I do miss you guys when I don't see you on Wednesdays, and so I am hoping to go up to I'm hoping to go up to McCall, Idaho, and visit with some of my Idaho friends toward the end of the month, which will be super fun. And hoping to get my kayak up there with me so that we can do a little kayaking. Those of you who don't know, I love to kayak, not whitewater, just lake kayaking. Um, and that is my favorite summertime activity. And here in Central Oregon, we have some amazing alpine lakes high in the Cascades. And and they're very close. So, 30, 40 minutes away, and you can have your boat on the lake. This year has been particularly um, interesting because we've had a big butterfly hatch. I think they are painted lady butterflies is what they are. And we always have butterflies in the summer, but this year they've been very prolific and there are butterflies everywhere. And so that's really cool. You go out on the lake and the butterflies are landing all over your boat and all over everything. And also the um, dragonflies, damselflies, I think they are. So, neon blue dragonflies. So, I'm really trying to get as much time out there as I can before winter comes because um, winters can be long in Central Oregon. So, what other questions do y'all have? Roz Parajam? You guys and your screen names. Corey Richens' trial was originally scheduled during my wedding, so I was looking forward to catching it in between honeymoon. Her trial was rescheduled during my maternity leave, so she better not delay again. Well, congratulations on both your wedding and baby. And I hope we're finally going to get Corey Richens to trial, and I hope it's not a delay. So, um, Are there some upcoming cases you will be covering? I'm looking forward to more Adelson. I certainly thank you, Jackie. I certainly will be covering Adelson. I have been really interested in that case since the very beginning, and I think I've told you that one of the books that I have considered, it is not the one I'm working on right now, but it it it's still on my radar, is a book about toxic grandmothers because we have several cases where we have grandmothers who've committed murder to get custody of their grandchildren or for the benefit of their grandchildren. We have Tiffany Adams, we have the Piketon massacre. There's another family in Utah. So, and of course, Grandma Gotti. So, the Adelson will definitely, I will definitely be following it very closely. Um, if she doesn't prove everyone wrong and take a deal at the last minute, I kind of doubt she will. But so, good questions. I absolutely was in the military. I spent 20 years in the Air Force and the Air National Guard. My husband spent 28 years in the Air Force and is a retired F-4 fighter pilot. So yes, I was in the military and in, and enjoyed my time in the military. Most of it was reservist, National Guard time in the Air National Guard. So thanks for asking. I love to hear from people who were in the military. So if you also were, especially women who served, we're kind of a small sisterhood. So last call for questions. Yes, I'm going to CrimeCon. Yes, I will try and do live updates from there, at least shorts. And no, I am not going to be doing any presentations there, but I will be attending the awards ceremony because the book's up for an award. So, last questions. So, thank you all for joining me. We will be back here on August 20th. And then we will be back to a weekly schedule starting on September 3rd. So thank you so much for joining us. And I appreciate you all. I know that there are a lot of other places you could be spending your Wednesday night. So I appreciate that you spend it with me. If you have cases you would like to see me cover or other questions and comments, please post them. If you don't like posting them in the questions, you can always drop me an email. So, as usual, I want to thank Jennifer for being the best moderator in the world. And I want to say, have a wonderful summer. Enjoy the last weeks of summer. I heard somewhere that in some states, kids have already gone back to school. So please enjoy your summer. Have a great night. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night.